Joining me from Washington is Adam Entous, a staff writer at the Washington Post and one of three writers of the Washington Post article about Obama's struggle to punish Putin. Adam, President Trump also tweeted that the Obama administration officials said that they choked when it came to acting on Russian meddling on the election. Did the Obama administration mishandle the threat from Russia? What are you hearing from inside?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of divisions inside the Obama administration during those final months where they were weighing this very delicate situation. I mean, yes, on one hand, they had this intelligence that was showing that Putin was directing this and that the goal was to help Trump win the White House. But on the other hand, the concern within the White House was that if they acted on that intelligence before the intelligence community was in firm agreement on the intentions of Russia, that they could be accused of politicizing the intelligence to try to help Hillary Clinton win the election. So that was weighing on them, in addition to their concerns that if they did retaliate against Russia before the election, then Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader, may have decided to basically intervene on Election Day or before Election Day to try to tamper with voter rolls and voting machines, which could obviously have really raised fundamental questions about the outcome of the election itself.
And you know, Adam, they pretty much expelled from here Russian diplomats that they believed were involved with this. Is there a sense that that was enough, that what they did at the end after the elections was enough to push back against Putin?
So, obviously there are those that think that that was insufficient given the gravity of what Russia did in 2016. There are others that think that, other steps that could have been taken, more sector-wide sanctions, if you will, that would have an impact on the United States and U.S. businesses and European allies. So they had to balance that. But I think what's important to understand, and we don't fully understand it ourselves, frankly, is what the Obama administration did is the kind of the equivalent of an iceberg. What you're describing is what's above the waterline. Those are the overt sanctions, the expulsions, the closure of Russian facilities. That's what we see above the surface. Below the surface are the covert actions that were taken and were authorized by Obama before he left office. We don't have perfect visibility into what those are, and that's intentional because they're covert. But what we learned as part of our reporting is that one of the things that Obama did was sign a covert finding, which put in place implants, referred to as implants. These are cyber devices, if you will, that can be set off in the future to try to punish the Russians if they tried to do something like this again. The question is how serious are those potential implants in terms of their ability to really affect the Russians down the road? And we don't have visibility into the details of that.
We know that President Trump is going to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin next month. Is there a sense that this White House is still keeping the pressure on behind the scenes, covertly? Any way of gauging what that relationship and intelligence is like with Russia?
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though, at least publicly, and from the officials that I talk to, that the Trump administration is intent on still trying to improve the relationship with Russia. They have been discussing even giving back the two facilities that the Obama administration closed down in December. There are discussions with the Russians now to try to give them access to those facilities again, and under what circumstances Russian diplomats and intelligence officers would be able to return to those two facilities. And so it does appear that the Trump administration is trying to have basically the relationship increase. Greater cooperation remains their goal. But obviously the political pressure from critics of the administration, the Trump administration, and the Democrats, obviously, they want to make it harder for the Trump administration to go down that path of trying to make that a better relationship.
Do we know, Adam, was the president aware of the CIA report in your article before now? Was he briefed during the transition?
You mean President-elect Trump at that point?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. He received that briefing and received that same intelligence, we believe, in early January after the intelligence community finalized that report. There were top intelligence officials for the outgoing Obama administration went up to New York, went to Trump Tower, and they briefed him on that. After that briefing, it appeared that Trump was agreeing saying that the evidence was solid, that Russia was involved in the election, meddling, that they were behind it. But then since then, his public remarks, both in speeches as well as on Twitter, suggest that he remains deeply skeptical of that intelligence. So frankly, we don't really have good visibility as to whether or not he truly believes that this information is true, or if he wants the public to think that he's skeptical of this intelligence.
We also learned this week, Adam, that Russia targeted voter databases in at least 21 states. That's nearly twice as many showed in the evidence of a breach. What do you make of that? What does that tell you?
Well, the officials that I spoke to about that said that, this was a very, they call it a loud intrusion. So when intelligence services conduct operations like this, the goal is to not be detected in the process. The way the Russians conducted those operations, according to the officials that I spoke to, may have been either they were very clumsy or they intended on being detected. And by intending to be detected might suggest that the Russians wanted to increase pressure. They wanted the Obama administration at the time to be very scared that this could be the intention of the Russians to try to actually affect the voter machines or voter rolls before the election, rather than a serious attempt to covertly actually change anything on Election Day. So that's the kind of game that's played in intelligence circles, where if they decide to do something in a way that's detected, it may have been intended as a misinformation effort to try to provoke the Obama folks to make them think that something more serious was underway, when in fact the Russians did not, it appears, intend on doing that on Election Day.
So interesting to hear you talk about that strategy. It seems like every week we're getting new evidence of Russian interference, Adam. I'm curious, what are the big questions that you still want to have answered?
Well, obviously, we still do not understand the scope of the FBI investigation. We know that they are looking at obstruction. They're investigating potential obstruction on the part of the president. What we don't really know is whether all of these things that we've been reporting on, these mysterious meetings and contacts with the Russians, which we are uncovering despite efforts by the Trump administration to keep them secret, whether there's anything there beyond trying to establish back channels and communication channels towards policy, or this idea that there might have been collusion. We have yet to see, at least I have not seen, anything in particular that points to collusion. That doesn't mean it's not there, and that doesn't mean that the FBI doesn't have information to that end. But that remains obviously a great deal a focus of investigative reporters, and I'm sure the FBI, to try to determine whether or not there was any coordination between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and what was the nature of that coordination.
Adam Entous with the Washington Post. Adam, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.